Hello, world literature students, and welcome to our module on Romanticism. We're starting this unit swinging back to Europe from our last module in early modern Asian literature. And in this unit, we also see a kind of a mental and emotional swing from rationalism, from the emphasis on the weight of social expectations, a hard swing away from all of that toward the value of the individual. It's in this unit that we see our modern way of thinking about ourselves as people take shape. It matters so much to us to express ourselves, to find ourselves, to unlock our potential. And all of those things crystallize in this period at the end of the 1700s and the beginning of the 1800s, right after the time of the American Revolution, around the time of the French Revolution, as Romanticism swept through poetry and fiction writing, through drama and painting and music. The Romantics, maybe more than any other group of writers we'll study in this class, have deeply transformed every aspect of our modern life. Why is it called Romanticism, though? What does this have to do with being romantic? And maybe you've heard from high school literature classes about the Romantics' love of nature. What does nature have to do with anything? Well, to answer those questions, I want to do a little thought experiment that can maybe help us illustrate what our own imaginations are able to do. So I'd like you to close your eyes for just a minute and play along with me. We're going to use your mind's ability to be a palace for terrible and beautiful forms, a place where the things you've experienced and felt are stored, whether or not you think about this. So for just a minute, I'd like you to, with your eyes closed, imagine a room that you know very well in real life. This could be your dorm room, maybe your bedroom in the home you grew up in, a room that you are very familiar with. And with your eyes closed, I'd like you to picture this room as accurately as you can. You've experienced it. Do you remember how the furniture is situated? Where the light comes from in the room? Imagine yourself standing in the middle of this room, and there is going to be a door in front of you in the middle of the wall, whatever there was in real life. There's going to be another door to your right and a third door to your left. Still with your eyes closed and in your imagination, I'd like you to step forward. Put your hand on the doorknob of the door right in front of you. Open it and step through. And you have just stepped into a memory of a real experience. I'd like you to find the most painful experience you can remember having in the past couple of years. Something where you felt overwhelmed, or maybe attacked and vulnerable, or perhaps humiliated. I know it's a painful experience, but remember, this is just in your imagination. Let your mind go back to that event. Can you remember where you were? Was it day or night? Can you remember the feelings and the sights of the situation? Were you alone, or were there other people with you? Let yourself pull back as much of the sensory information of that moment as you can. How it felt, how it sounded, what things looked like. Your own inner state. Now step back out of that room and close the door. This time, turn to your right. Put your hand on this door, behind which is the most pleasurable experience that you've had in the last couple of years. Open the door and step into it. Again, can you remember all of the senses, the sights, the sounds? Were you alone or with someone else? Was it day, afternoon, late at night? How was the light falling on the scene? How was your body situated? Can you remember the exact feelings? The pleasure? Was it intense or low and pleasant? Was there smell involved or sound? Now step back out of this memory and go back to your room at the center of this mind palace and turn to the third door. step to it and place your hand on the doorknob. Behind this door is a moment when you have been fully and deeply at peace. Open the door and step in. Pull back all of the sensations of this real event, this moment where you felt a deep peace, maybe after long stress, maybe coming through a conflict or succeeding in something you'd worked on for a long time. Can you feel your heart and your breathing shifting? In your imagination, look around you and remember the scene. If you weren't alone in that moment, look at the faces of the people you were with. Enjoy this piece for one more second, and then step back out of this scene into your room at the center and open your eyes. The Romantic writers are very interested in the imagination, and in a much more nuanced and exact and cognitive way than we tend to think of when we associate imagination with a kid drawing pictures or watching a cartoon show. Imagination, the writer Samuel Taylor Coleridge pointed out, is actually the mechanism in your brain that weaves together the reality in which you exist every waking moment. Your senses take in a flood of sights and sounds, of sense and touch, but your imagination decides which of those sensations are part of the story that makes up who you are. Much of the rest of that information is just flushed away and forgotten, but quite a bit of it is stored. And in intense experiences of evil or of good, those memories stay within us and they shape our identities even long after we have stopped thinking about them. And with a well-disciplined imagination, a person can go back and find nourishment for the past, or revisit a moment of trauma and re-navigate it with their older resources to find healing. The imagination is a powerful tool for social or political transformation. If I can imagine a different world than this, a different future, I can dream governmental systems into existence. I perhaps could tell a story or write a poem that would change the way people see their own reality, and in changing their imagination of the world, we might be able to bring a new world about. Romantic literature is so exciting, and we're going to be reading a range from the Romantics dabbling in the horrible, terrifying side of the potential that could be unlocked in us if we're not careful and let our most monstrous impulses free, through narratives of people who escaped slavery through the transformation of their minds, to poetry about finding beauty, about letting the natural world retune our God-given potential to make us fully human again, through poetry that's politically engaged, that's seeking for social reform or helping us connect with other citizens in a diverse nation. There's lots of short pieces that we'll be reading. I think that you will love many of them. Happy reading.